Well, I had never been to Mexico, and I decided to come down, and I arose in here in Bacalar. It was dark out, so I could not see the lake. But the next morning I got up and I walked out on the pier, and the pier was actually built on top of the largest stromatolite that I've ever seen. And I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God, that is a stromatolite." And that's how this all began. I shared the information with a very small group of people, and I came down in August, and then after that I had to think for a very long time whether or not I wanted to expose these stromatolites, because I knew doing research on the stromatolites would make them world famous. And in the end, I decided that I would. The reason is that every place I've seen where you kind of try and ignore a situation that's really quite wonderful in the world, a natural resource, it ends up being exploited. So I decided that I would start a research project, and I've been back every year since 2007, and the project has grown and grown. We had a scientific symposium down here in 2009, and I invited people that I knew that were stromatolite experts. That kind of really got things moving when people realized that these were the largest stromatolites in the world. So stromatolites are a living organism. Let me tell you just a little bit about them. They are the first organism that figured out how to live on the surface of the earth, because the ultraviolet radiation, UV light, was very strong. There was no ozone to block the radiation. So they figured it out, and what the stromatolites did was to just build a layer of calcium carbonate over the cyanobacteria, which is a blue-green algae. It's actually a bacteria. And that allowed them to live on the surface of the earth. The cyanobacteria are photosynthetic, so they produce oxygen. The first oxygen produced was taken up by iron and oxidized the iron, like rust on metal. But after that, the oxygen moved up into the atmosphere. So these stromatolites, beginning at 3.7 billion years ago, were the first organisms to live on the surface of the earth, and the first ones to put oxygen in the atmosphere. And of course that allowed animals to evolve. And so they play a very crucial role in the whole development of Earth. So what we're trying to do is conserve the stromatolites, because one problem is that as tourism moves from Cancun to Playa del Carmen through Tulum, it's starting to come down here. It was actually starting a little bit back in 2007. As soon as the tourism pressure gets high enough, without an adequate sewer system, nutrients will enter the lake, and because there's a small mussel that is invasive in the lake. I don't know how long it's been there. It could be 100 years, it might be thousands of years. The Mayans may have brought it in, but it's not a natural mussel. But these mussels, black striped mussels, grow on the stromatolites. We're very familiar with them because we have a cousin up in the Great Lakes, and it covers everything. So if the nutrient enrichment gets high enough, these mussels will cover the stromatolites and they will kill them. It'll be done then, the lake, I mean. So the stromatolites are incredibly important to conserve because they're so unique in the world. If you have a lot of tourism, too much tourism for what the sewage system can allow, the nutrients will sweep into the lake. The mussels will grow and cover and smother the stromatolites. That would be a shame. In 2009, we had a symposium that I said we had. I called these the Laguna Bacalar, I called a world-class lake. And it really was. I mean, it is a world-class lake. There are very, very few lakes in the world that have that designation. You have the Tanganyika, the African lakes, you have the Great Lakes, where I'm from. You have Titicaca in South America, you have Lake Baikal in the USSR, but really beyond that, there are no lakes that are so unique. And this is Mexico's world-class lake. So I hope it's preserved. I really hope it's preserved. We're working with scientists from Mexico City and Ecosur in Chetumal, and working as hard as we can to understand the science of the lake and also social aspects of the lake as well. We have a sampling site down in the rapids where the most beautiful stromatolites are. They're absolutely stunning. And I can tell you in the area where the restaurant is, the stromatolites are being destroyed. They won't allow boats up in there, but there's so many swimmers and they're walking all over the stromatolites and they are destroying the stromatolites. They're huge places where the stromatolites have been just kicked off. So something's going to have to be done. And this is a Mexican lake. It's their lake. It's not mine. I'm just a scientist. But it's a Mexican lake, and the Mexican government is going to have to step in and really preserve these stromatolites, because once they're gone, they won't get them back. And it's just something that people, I think in general, don't pay attention. I think probably half the people down at this area in the rapids don't even know that there's something living. But we just went through there today. We have a sampling station up the rapids, and I was shocked at the amount of destruction of the stromatolites. So I'm not sure what can be done, but I honestly think this is a political matter. It's an economic and political matter more than anything, and a social matter. You have to get the people in this area to really support the ecology of the lake, because if they don't, they'll lose it. Yes. And when they lose it, their children and their young children will not wake up in the morning and look out over Laguna Bacalar and see what they saw when they were young, because it will just be another green lake, and Bacalar will just be another small city in Mexico.